Hey, welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I get to talk to leaders that are making a difference in the workplace and in our community. What did they do to get started? And what are they doing to stay there? And we are in the middle of our HR Southwest Conference series as we are highlighting speakers and topics for the upcoming HR Southwest Conference, which is coming up October the 15th through the 18th. In Fort Worth, Texas at the Fort Worth Convention Center. And today, oh my goodness, I have another special guest. I actually have two guests today. We're getting to talk to Davis-Colan and Julie Davis-Colan, and they are the co-founders of the L Group. And Julie, I'm so excited to have you on the show. How you doing?
We're doing great. Thanks for having us.
Appreciate you, Bruce.
Well, and I always like to start the show off like when I met my guests or maybe when they came into my path. And Lee, I don't know if you remember this, but Lee, you and I have known each other for a long time. I met you when you were speaking at a North Texas relocation professionals group. And it was something around stick it.
Stick to it.
Stick to it. Yes. There you go. It stuck. And I was so impressed. I admired the way your approach, and we later met. And when I put my book out, I came to you for advice. So you've been great. Do you remember that speaking at that conference?
I do. A little scary that it was that long ago, but yeah. I do remember that. Yeah.
I love it. And I've watched you since, and you're doing some amazing things. You and Julie both have an amazing company, and I'm excited to get in because you're getting to talk to the at the HR Southwest Conference this year. Of course, in addition to your the L Group, an advisory firm. You also work with many Fortune 1000 companies. You've authored 16 books, including the newly released, and we're going to be talking about this today, Healthy Leadership. Mm-hmm. And I'm super excited that, by the way, my daughter is a nutritionist, so she's going to want to listen to this as well. And then, of course, you're speaking at the conference. So I want to kind of kick this off. I always like to, for the audience to get to know my guests a little bit. And I would love for you to share a little bit about, first of all, how you met. I would love to know that story, and talk a little bit about how you both got into leadership and writing books.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Julie's a Midwestern girl from Columbus, Ohio. We met our senior year at Florida State University in Tallahassee, and we were in psychology class together. Julie was the president of the Psychology Honor Society, and so we were sitting next to her, and I liked Julie, but I wasn't very smooth with the ladies, so I had to figure out some way to get her attention. So I started writing her these letters from a fake a German exchange student named Hermann von Wagner. So I'd write letters and put it in her president's kind of mail slot in the work area. And I'd wrote something like, hey, I've got a 2.0. I'd like to be in the honor society. Julie, being the ultimate optimist, assumed, well, maybe there's a different grading system in Germany. I don't know.
So the letters continued for about a month, and I didn't talk to anyone about it because that was kind of boring business. And one day he sat next to me in class and just looked over and said, "So, how's Hermann von Wagner?" And all of a sudden it just went, oh my goodness, it has to be him. And I could have either been terrified or impressed.
A little bit of a risk. But
but it was a heck of a lot of effort to get to know someone. So I think that preceded our first date, and we're about to have our
36th anniversary.
36th anniversary and 40th anniversary of our first date in October. So it worked.
How about that? Well, congratulations. That's fantastic. My wife and I just celebrated our 38th.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, and so exciting times. I love it. Oh my goodness. That is a great story. I love that. Hey, let's talk about the HR Southwest Conference. Sure. And first of all, have you spoke at the HR Southwest Conference? I think I've seen your name there before.
Two or three times in the past. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's been a few years though, so we thought we'd use this book as a chance to kind of re-engage with the conference.
Mm-hmm.
They have a conference theme: learn, grow, and network. When someone says learn, grow, and network, like what does that mean to you?
I think the most important piece of that is grow. And I'm going to harken back to something our today 23-year-old said when she was 4. And she said, "Mommy, there are only 2 ways of being," right? And I had no idea what this 4-year-old was going to share as we were out kind of gardening. She goes, they're either growing or dying. And to me, that was very profound. So that particular word grow and the need to intentionally grow, kids grow so naturally, we pour into them. And then, really taking hold of that growth when you're a grown up and pouring into yourself, looking for others to pour into you and taking that intentional path. If you do that, you learn, and you can't grow without networking. So to me, that's the centerpiece for that phrase.
I love that. Growing or dying. I've heard a couple of people use that, and I'm right there with you. Okay, so you're going to talk about, so you've written this new book, Healthy Leadership. I would love to know, and I want to get into this. I would love to know, like, what drove the idea of writing this book, number one, and number two, what are you excited about sharing at the HR Southwest Conference when it comes to healthy leadership?
Sure. We did so a couple of years ago, and it was around healthy growth, and there are 5 growth factors around that, about having a compelling purpose and engaging your team and executing. So anyway, 5 growth factors. As we looked at these growth factors for any organization to inspire healthy growth, around those growth factors there was a ring, and we realized that was healthy leadership, because in all of our experience, and really the data will tell us this too, that leadership is kind of a force multiplier. It's either going to enhance or inhibit anything you try to do in the organization. So if you're trying to, install a new strategic plan, if you're trying to execute better, if you're trying to create a great culture, which are 3 of the 5 growth factors, the leader is either going to be able to expand that impact, or it's going to inhibit it based on how he or she leads. So we realized that healthy leadership was really the core here of how organizations can drive healthy growth. And we define healthy growth as something that serves all parties. It serves the leader, the organization, all the stakeholders in the community. So it's not just like a short-term thing. It's how do we make sure we're meeting everybody's needs? So we stepped back and said, you know what, healthy leadership is really the key here. Let's kind of develop that. So we worked with clients around it, did a lot of research around it, particularly the research around Gallup's research around what's changing in the workforce.
Just what the needs are, and we know that they're not going to change, but Gallup research, even pre-pandemic, which reached millions of individuals and thousands and thousands of companies worldwide, started to reveal trends that were a difference here, a difference for everybody than had been in the past, like people's strong work for purpose, people wanting a coach instead of just a boss, people looking at work as their whole life, not just a piece of their day. And some of these key components started to drive some information about how work worked best. In the US, the pandemic really accelerated those trends. I think in Europe and different parts of the world, they were more prevalent and more evident.
Well, just to clarify that, in other words, like in Europe, the phrase would be, we work to live. And in the US, it was like, we live to work. So in Europe, they kind of had a little bit more of a balance already. And in the US, though, it kind of is a little bit more of an exaggerated effect of these trends as people started to kind of bring their life into balance a little bit more.
And money is always, important, but purpose really started taking hold. And as we look at the workforce now, it is just about half, depending on how you cut it, millennial and lower. And they're going to be the predominant ones going forward. And these needs are so evident. And we talk to people in every facet of companies and search, and they're astounded that you can't just pay someone a lot and they're going to come and stay. And the other piece of that is the integrity between the walk and the talk. And as Lee mentioned, that healthy leader is that accelerator to any system or effort. And if people sense discord between what the company says and what their leaders do, they're often out. So these, we feel, are really we're passionate about helping new and experienced leaders relearn these things. It used to be like a really great leader did these things that we encompass within healthy leadership. Now they're just table stakes. Like, in order to be a great leader, you've got to embrace some of these concepts.
It's really the kind of the magnet that's going to attract people in, and then the glue that kind of keeps them there. So the book really is around how to really lead today's workforce and the future workforce, so you and the organization can thrive.
I love that. I love all of this. As I think about this, I think about being healthy. Everybody wants that.
That's right.
But it's hard. It's hard. Like, you take, the first of the year, you have everybody goes to the gym, and then in the first quarter, a lot of people are not going anymore, right? Because it's about getting momentum. How do you, and I'm just curious, and I sent you a few questions, but I'm sitting here thinking about, For our listeners, I know you're probably going to share some of this, but maybe a tip like how does somebody get started in getting healthy or maybe even validating that they have healthy leadership? I'm curious.
So the model really has 6 elements to it. 3 are healthy leadership, kind of the mindset on the top of the model, which is love, positivity, and growth, right? And so even it's kind of funny at the beginning, even a lot of our HR colleagues were like, "You have love in the model? Love in the workplace?" I was like, well, it's only the most spoken about, talked about, sung about topic in the world. Why doesn't it belong in the workplace? And again, we define it as simply doing what's in the best interest of others, right? That's how we define love. So these 3 elements of love, positivity, and growth are really the healthy leader's mindset. And we always say that you have to get your mind right before you can get your team right. And then we have 3 healthy leadership skills. So we have the mindset and the skill set of to clarify, connect, and coach. So that's really kind of that's kind of the core. And we'll always tell people, if you can get the mindset right, you're going to thrive at home, at the office, in the community, wherever. It's really about, we always say life's a game of inches. It's really the 6 inches between your ears. So it's really getting that mindset right. And I think for younger leaders, sometimes it's a little easier, but like for more experienced leaders, it's really about, it's no easy deal to kind of shift your mindset. But if you could do that, you're really gonna be able to thrive. The skill sets come a lot easier if you can get the mindset right.
Yeah. And as it relates to being healthy, we're not talking even about biometrics or even, organizational report out. It really is about, if you get your mind right, everything else falls in place. Whether you're doing healthy living and you do go to the gym, well, if you don't have the right mindset, that's gonna be a very probably short spurt there, and it's not gonna lead to the health over your lifetime that you're talking about. So, it is really fundamentally about how you think about things. And we've been very impressed with some very senior CEOs who have done leadership a different way and see, I just didn't go to work anymore. I'm disconnecting with everyone. It's not working. And, the ability to say, I need to learn. And, there's an old behavior change model that says awareness, education, behavior change, and being aware. And part of this book is really about bringing awareness to it, but also tools, very simple research-based how-to tools to make these actions so you can have some quick rewards, particularly in the way you're thinking, so that you see this is possible. It's not this overwhelming new way of doing business.
I love that. If you're listening right now, you need to get out your pen and your journal. You got to get your mind right before you can get your team right. That is fantastic. And I love how you talk about even we're not even talking about people getting into leadership. We're talking about people that possibly even been in leadership for a long time. It reminds me of, I heard a guy once say, he said, it's easier to stay in shape than it is to get in shape.
That's right.
Right? Isn't that awesome? So
you've got the habit built up already.
Yeah, you've already got that built up, and you just got to keep going, keep that going, because as soon as you stop, and probably some of the different things you talk about today, you stop focusing on them, and all of a sudden you go backwards, and now all of a sudden you got to start again. And so I love it. Hey, what do you both? I mean, you both are great speakers. What do you enjoy most about speaking?
I'll say the people. A big change for me in speaking was when I stopped worrying about how I was speaking, and I focused on what people were hearing and listening to and what they needed. And I think both of us are very helpful, focused. Our goal is to help people in life. So when we can see people get, one of those light bulb moments or find something that works in their life, and not even just at work, personally, it's extremely rewarding.
Sure. Absolutely. Same thing. I think we're both kind of born educators. I come from a family of 5 educators. Julie has a couple in her family too. And so really this is just a form of education in the business world. And so it's fun for us to be able to kind of share some of the insights we've been fortunate enough to have and develop. And again, Julie mentioned before, we're very kind of a how-to firm. So it's you can get all complicated about things, but we kind of really try to simplify it and give people a tool that they could take back and get an immediate result. So our real mission in life is just to encourage and equip leaders. So it's great if you can encourage them, but if you can't equip them with something, they're going to get all excited. But then they're going to go back and like, okay, now what do I do? So we really try to equip them with really simple tools that they could just take away and use, and it kind of reduces the time between an intention and an action. And if you create complexity and all this stuff, that just kind of creates noise in the channel. So we like simplicity and actionable tools is kind of our deal. And as Julie said, if we could see people apply those even in our sessions, it's really rewarding.
A simple example of that in, in our area of positivity is just a very small word change. And we do an activity where we talk about, think about something that you have to do, and you write it down.
It could be taking out the trash, doing a performance review, getting a proposal out, whatever it might be.
Any scope in your life. Now, for a moment, think about that, but think about it in terms of something you get to do. Now I get to do this. And just that simple reframing with just a few different letters can lead to an epiphany of gratitude. I have to cook dinner. Well, I have money to go to the grocery. I can get to the grocery and get food. I have people in my home to feed. And the cascade of positive emotions and appreciation, those are just like 2-second tweaks, but we have tools like that can help people not only work, but also live better.
So you can imagine waking up in the morning and thinking like all the 10 things you have to do and how different that feels. That feels like heavy and a weight. And you think of the things I get to do as privileges and blessings, and it just feels very different, whether it's having to go work out or pay the bills or do a performance review. Those get-tos are important.
I love that. I think we're all guilty of that. Many times we know it's a blessing to go and pick up our kids at school when we're busy during the day. And we say, I got to go get my kids.
Yeah.
But to say, I get to go pick up my kids, it just feels different.
Yeah.
Hey, let me, this is good stuff. I love this. I know the listeners are loving this right now. Hey, let me ask you this. One of the things that I also, I don't know, maybe I observe, hear it, but many times at the conference, people get inspired. They get all excited. And then, they go back to the office and all of a sudden they kind of run into a roadblock, right? And so I'm just wondering, like, how, I don't know, is there anything, and I know one of the things I like about your book is you talk about principles and practices. So there may be something around practices around this, but when, I don't know, people come back to the office and all of a sudden they're ready to get healthy, but they run into roadblocks. Maybe, I don't know, it could be work. It could be people in the workflow, whatever that is. I don't know, do you give any tips around how you push through during difficult times?
I'm going to say many years ago, that I think it started with that movie, Just What About Bob, or Just About Bob.
With Bill
It
Murray,
was about baby steps.
Yeah.
And that's really kind of transferred to a concept that Lee put in this book, looking at a mountain climber's world. It's called the 3-foot world, taking just 3 steps forward, because if you look up too high, you fall. So framing your world in those 3 baby steps. And I encountered a health challenge where I was, thinking about all the permutations that could go wrong the day after Lee put that in the manuscript. And I thought, oh, that was great, because you go back and forth. And I had a physician go to me and look me in the eyes and take my hands and say, Julie, 3 feet ahead, just 3 feet ahead. So I take that baby step concept into that 3 feet ahead and say, just do a few things, just take a few steps forward in that, that sea of confusion or, anxiousness or whatever happens when you get back to the office and things go crazy. Just a little bit forward and you'll be on your way to the journey over time.
Sure. And I would absolutely agree on that. And then I would just say, couple that with, make sure you have a tool, because again, sometimes people come away from a conference or speaking, like they are excited, but then like, okay, what do I do? So we just want to make sure we're very intentional about saying, when you go back tomorrow, take this tool, or sometimes
pick one tool.
Pick one.
Yes,
sometimes it could be 10 tools. People get all excited and it diffuses their effort. So we get less focused. So it's like, find one thing that you could do and focus on that. The old saying, first we form our habits, then our habits form us. So we have to create a habit of one thing over time. Then and only then, once we don't have to think about it, it kind of becomes subconscious. We just kind of do it subconsciously. Then we can focus our energy on something else. But I think a lot of people get excited and try to do lots of changes. That, the whole concept of personal transformation and organization, that's sexy and it sells books. But the fact is, real transformation happens just little baby steps at a time, focusing on one thing, really getting good at it, then not having to think about it, then only then layering on something else. That's the only way to sustainable change. But I think we all get seduced a little bit about trying to overnight, transform ourselves. It's one baby step.
This is fantastic because as you shared that, I'm sitting there thinking a lot of times people are looking at the tip of the iceberg, especially when it comes to success. Oh my goodness, look at all the success this person's having, but they didn't see all the baby steps they've taken for the last 20 years to get to where they are today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
But
fantastic.
when we talk about the ability to kind of stick with your plans, we always use the illustration of the Indian thorny bamboo plant, which once planted, it takes over 2 years of the right environmental conditions, water and sunlight, 2 years before it even breaks ground. But once it breaks ground, it could grow up to 100 feet in less than 2 weeks. You heard that right, 100 feet in less than 2 weeks. I sound like one of those infomercials, right? You get it said against you knives, right? But that's what happens. So when people look at that and go, oh my gosh, and it's the same thing when we're creating a new habit. People look at it and go, oh wow, that guy had an overnight success. Look at him, he looks in great shape, or he's a fabulous leader, he's moving up the ladder. Well, they don't see all that time where they just were sticking with that and throwing their shoulder into the daily things, the mindset of growth, positivity, and love, or whatever they're building up day in and day out. Just like when you go to the gym, when you come back from the gym, you don't look all in great shape. It's not that one time. It's that accumulation of consistency that starts building that up. And it's no different here when you're trying to create healthy leadership. It's no different.
And I think, what you're talking about is really appreciating process success and, not just the end result, like applauding yourself. And I'll just share one of the things in positivity. This is a kind of a quirky Julie thing that I've created, but I do it myself and some of our clients have started to do this, but what gets done, what gets rewarded gets done. So as it relates to any small baby step, I reward myself with what has become known as Good Job Jules, because my name is Julie, but I will literally do a good job, Jules, to myself, literally out loud. And I have a little minor one I can do and a medium one.
So she doesn't look crazy in public.
Yeah, I don't know. I look pretty crazy, but just really taking time to, again, affirm yourself, like that was hard. But I went to the gym one time. That's the first of many. And awarding yourself and applauding yourself for taking those steps, taking a breath and helping. That changes your mindset over time.
I mean, you are the only person that's with yourself 100% of the time, right? So either you're going to be your greatest cheerleader or your worst enemy. So Julie's just saying, maximize the fact that don't depend on anybody else. Do it yourself. So it's been a great practice.
If you're listening right now and you're not watching, Julie is like high-fiving herself, taking her hands above her head. And this is great. This is fantastic. I love all of this. And as I think about some of the success I've had, it's been about habits. It's about, hey, I put this one habit in place, then I put this other habit in place, and just every day.
That's right.
Every day. I love all that. Hey, I do want to ask this question. I like to ask this question, especially when you're speaking. When you finish speaking and talking about healthy leadership at the HR Southwest Conference, what are you hoping attendees will come up and share with you?
Yeah, I'm hoping that they'll come up and as they hear the message, they're willing to look in the mirror and go, you know what? Even though I might be doing great, I need to shift on my mindset a little bit. Because it's one thing to do the skills, and that's great, but the real sustainable, really transformative work happens when we look inside. And sometimes that's tough. It's a lot easier to go, oh, if my team would just do that better, or oh yeah, maybe I need to coach a little bit better. But when we really think about the way I'm thinking and we're critical about that, we can all improve and hone the way we think. To me, that's the most rewarding, because I know that person's serious. They really heard the message and they're willing to do the work to kind of say, that's how I can really make the biggest difference for my life and all those around me by working on one of those mindsets of love, positivity, and growth. That's really kind of the golden nugget if we hear that.
Yeah, and I just think that if they are excited and they can do a quick little 3-second thing like we did have to get to, and we have innumerable ones of those, if it just kind of clicks, realizing that life is an inside out job and we only see the outside of everyone, but all that happens in there, it's so powerful. And Lee talked about we're the only ones with ourselves all the time. And when we talk to people, when you say, how do you talk to yourself? Do you talk to yourself like you talk to your best friend? And people are like, no. And in fact, if many of us talk to others the way we talk to ourselves, we wouldn't have any friends. So just acknowledging that self-talk, those tools to help your mindset propel your life in a totally different direction, and are really fundamental for key life leadership and leadership at work as well.
For sure.
I love that because I find myself when I'm in a group and someone says I can't do that, I'm like, that's negative self-talk.
Yeah.
Like let's reframe that, you know,
Mhm.
and I sometimes I wonder how they take it.
Yeah.
I want somebody to tell me that, because some people have grounded me before when I'm like, oh my gosh, I've had a tough day. Oh, really? You probably better go back and read one of your motivational books.
Yeah.
So, and I think about that. I'm like, you know what? You're right. Right. So this is so good. I love that. I'm excited to hear you both speak. They're going to be talking about, Lee and Julie are going to be talking about healthy leadership at the HR Southwest Conference coming up October the 15th through the 18th in Fort Worth, Texas. You don't want to miss this session for sure. Hey, I do like to ask this question before I shift to It's Time to Accelerate. All of my guests, I like to just soak in the wisdom. And I just want to ask, have you ever been given any advice? It was just like so good. It could have been early career, mid-career, at any time during your career. It was just so good. You just find yourself often sharing that with others.
Yes. When I was in graduate school, I had a great, wise professor, awesome guy. And he always just said, you know what, Lita, the key to success is not being able to know everything, but it's being able to plug up your ignorance within 24 hours. Well, now fast forward, and it's really about 24 minutes, right? Yeah. So his point was that you have to just be resourceful, being able to access information, access your network, to be able to plug up your ignorance, as he called it, right? So it really relieved the pressure off me as I moved into a leadership role. Like, I don't need to know everything. I just need to know who to tap into in my personal, professional, and company network to be able to access that information. And I think as people, sometimes if they don't have that as they grow up the organization, you find managers that start kind of micromanaging because they feel like they have to know everything to be successful in their job. And I appreciated that wisdom because it kind of relieved me a lot as I moved up the organization.
So good.
And mine was relative to my personality type. I am an idea girl. I would love that idea per second concept. And my best boss appreciated that, ideated with me, helped me create something completely better than I could conceive of myself, but also taught me focus. And it's kind of ironic that our first book was about, sticking to it, because after culling through all of that, being able to focus, whether it's on one baby step, on one habit, on one idea for business, it really is the only way I know to succeed.
Yeah.
And so that was really fundamental and not characteristic of who I am or the way my brain works. So it was really brain training for me. And I really appreciate that as we go through life.
For sure.
I love, and both of you shared and I heard collaboration in both cases, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
It's like about connecting with other
right.
people, and I think that's one of the things that people don't think about too, is when you go to a conference and you're in a session, you're sitting next to different people and you're all hearing, and that's a great time to talk to each other about, hey, what was your perspective on that? And so I just love all of this, and I appreciate you both sharing this. Excited about healthy leadership at the HR Southwest Conference. Hey, I'm going to shift to It's Time to Accelerate for the last part of the show. Ask you some fun questions. I know you've been to a lot of different cities. You spoke in a lot of different places. I'm curious, what's your favorite city, or do you have a favorite?
Florence, Italy for me. My dad's from Italy, and we just love going back there. So Florence is my favorite place.
I love it.
I would say Paris, and that's where we got engaged, and we really love that city.
Yep.
I love it. Not Paris, Texas either.
No, I
Very
will say when I
nice.
first moved here, I didn't know there was one, but I do know now, and I appreciate everyone from there.
I love that. Hey, so what do you look? So I know you mentioned you spoke at the conference before. What are you looking forward to the most? You're going to the one of the largest regional HR conferences in the country.
That's right. I'm personally looking forward to seeing old friends like you, Bruce, and then making new ones. That's always the fun part of just like meeting new people, finding people that have different perspectives, kind of building that network out a little bit. It's always very kind of exhilarating for me.
Yeah. And I think being in person, while venue, things like Zoom have really helped us communicate, I so appreciate the large crowd of people and the people you get to bob and weave with and just meet so many new people in the flesh. I think that's just exhilarating now. I loved it before, but I really appreciate it now.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I do like to ask this question around energy, because I think that, you're writing books, you're teaching, you're doing a lot of stuff. What energizes you, like maybe outside of that? What do you like to do?
Well, at our core, we both love to just encourage and equip people so they can kind of thrive in life. That's like kind of just who we are. That's why our business is as much of a personal calling as it is a business. But we love to travel, and we love we love to play pickleball now.
Oh, nice.
We are pickleballers. Yes, we do love that.
I'm sure there's some pickleballers out there listening right now.
I know.
It's a phenomenon right now. This is
Yes.
fantastic.
Sure
Hey,
is.
I like to ask this to close the show, and this is really one of my favorite questions I like to ask, and I want you both to answer this. But you know, Lee 10 years older, Julie 10 years older.
Yeah.
They're around the corner, and they're knocking at your door, and you're going to go answer that door. What are they going to tell you?
Yeah. For me, it would be keep the faith.
Mm.
Everything works out.
Mm.
So, and I think if I knew that years ago, I'd probably have a little less stress in my life. And the fact is, we feel God's hand on our lives. So just to kind of stay strong in our faith. And that's all.
And being blessed with that, I just say enjoy every day. You know, that Carpe Diem in that Robin Williams movie.
Yeah.
I created a phrase, life be in it. And my kids kind of mirror that motto, but just to really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. I love that. Even during the tough times, just embrace it, enjoy it.
Right.
Because, you know, it's all about, I just got back from Alaska, and I brought back this picture with me, and it talked about advice from Alaska, and it had all these sayings like be bold, different things. But the one that caught my attention, it said peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
Peaks and valleys, and that's what it's all about, right? Just trying to work through that. Hey, this has been so good. Lee, Julie, thank you so much for coming on the show. Hey, a couple things. I'm going to put the link in the show notes for the conference, and I know everybody's going to want to attend your session. But before then, if they want to, I don't know, they want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to connect?
Sure. They could go to leadershipexperts.com. Their phone number, email, any way they want to connect us socially, otherwise, all right there at leadershipexperts.com.
That's fantastic. I will put that in the show notes. I am grateful for you both coming onto the show, sharing your wisdom. We talked about healthy leadership. I'm holding up the book. If you're listening right now, you need to go out and get a copy of that. That way you'll be really prepared. But I'm sure they'll have that book at the bookstore as well at the conference. And so again, I appreciate you both, and I appreciate your friendship. And I can't wait till the conference.
Yeah, that'd be great. Bruce, hey, just one quick note on that. Actually, anyone that attends our session will get a complimentary autographed copy of the book. They don't even need to go to the bookstore.
That's better than Ginsu Knives.
Yeah, really. That's right. Yeah.
How about that? You heard it right here on Life in the Leadership Lane. I will also put that in the show notes. And so that's really going to fill that session. That's fantastic. I love that. And I appreciate you both. And again, I appreciate your friendship.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you so much.
Good
Thank
seeing
you.
Awesome. Okay. Can't wait to share this. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Take care.